There's one drawback, being 6 foot 2 inches tall. Small vehicles just don't have a welcoming atmosphere. But this week, a coupe-like feel actually felt quite roomy. Hey, welcome to this edition of Road Warrior. I'm your host, Grant Roberson. Now, specifically behind me is the 2020 Mercedes CLA 250, the coupe-like sedan that basically delivers those 4 doors and hints that maybe even my 6 foot frame can squeeze inside. I'm not positive when the 4-door design with the coupe-like styling actually debuted, but it had to be to handle 6 foot individuals like myself, because when I see 2 doors arrive, I typically run for the hills because it just doesn't seem like a natural fit. However, when a 4-door arrives, well, I take notice because, well, I have this false sense of security that it's going to handle me with ease. What I like here on the Mercedes CLA 250 is it combines the best of both worlds, because after all, my big, long estate sedans that I prefer just don't get sportiness like we see here. And that's truly what the CLA truly delivers. First, starting here at the back end with this really dramatic profile sweeping roofline that gives you that coupe-like feel, even right down to the hood that really slopes away quite dramatically. And where you notice that is behind the steering wheel. That almost not even noticeable. Heck, you don't even think it's there. Don't get me wrong, 2-door coupes definitely can deliver, and obviously it's only for the pilot and co-pilot. What I don't prefer is that false bravado for the backseat drivers having to somewhat wedge themselves through the front doors into the back. Heck, that almost implies those are the places where you put the friends you don't prefer. Obviously, when you have a 4-door like we see here, it's kind of an equal opportunist. Everyone is welcome into this vehicle. Though with this overall numbers on this vehicle, you can still say the legroom numbers there in the back seat are somewhat of the Achilles heel. Now, by the numbers, this vehicle measures in about 184 inches, wheelbase about 107, width about 6 feet wide, and height just over 4.5 feet tall. The height probably being about the only backbending affair that I had to deal with because, well, it just takes a little bit to get my frame inside. But the real small number is the ground clearance, 4.3 inches, really making this vehicle feel planted to the road, giving that sporty kind of feel, and, well, again, just making sure it feels planted. Certainly the profile for the CLA 250 will turn heads, but it's the grille warfare that grabs everyone's attention. And what you're seeing here is across the entire Mercedes lineup. No longer about the raised hood ornament, but instead all about star power. Usually oversized with a nice broad sweeping open face port grille, really gobbling up all the air and everyone's attention. Now, since this is kind of a sporty model, it's really not all about the chrome or bling this vehicle out, but really the darkened accents. You see that obviously through the front, around the sides, and even at the 4 corners, and obviously with that darkened glass element there on the roofline. Grille warfare isn't all about what's happening over here, but really all the features coming together to make the front end stand out. But there might be one element, well, that is taking center stage, and that is headlight design. And what we see here on the CLA 250 is a multi-beam approach, tons of bedazzling under a nice crystal clear lens, and obviously dynamic to add into the overall menacing and sporty look of this vehicle. Other things to talk about is safety. Obviously, cameras surround this vehicle up front, on the sides, and at the back end, really allowing this vehicle to dive in with ease, because with the low ground clearance, this can be a banging affair just when you're parking, so you do want to, well, park clear of the curves. Nice lower fascia. Now, what you'll see here on the side is kind of an implied port, but it is an operational, pretty much most of the airflow going through the middle. Last safety feature is the parking sensors at the front and at the back end. Now, just for clarity on that lower fascia on the outer side, there is a nice open port there by the front wheels, allowing that air to sweep around the vehicle when it gets in those niches. One big thing to talk about is innovation. It all starts with ingress into the vehicle. Mercedes steps up their game, obviously, when it comes to smart key. Pretty much keep this in your pocket. No need to interact with it because the vehicle pretty much can sense when you're here. And also what I like is there's ingress at any door. Pretty much just walk right up, put your hand right here, opens with ease, and obviously got the automation when it comes to those mirrors, really giving you a visual effect of when the vehicle is locked and when it's unlocked. Also, security sweeps all the way down to the fill-up area. When the vehicle is locked, so is this. Obviously unlocked, this opens with ease, and it is a cap system, just in case you want to know. By the numbers, the CLA 250 certainly won't fill up the lane, but it does have a nice wide stance. Now it's enhanced by that wide grille at the front end, a little bit of flare out at the haunches, and that wide look really sweeps all the way around the vehicle. Now as you visually look up, obviously the overall silhouette does taper in just a hair. Now here at the back end, it all culminates to this rear deck lid with an implied rear spoiler. Nice design element that really sweeps here to the outer edge. Body color pretty much all the way around this vehicle, it is referred to as sun yellow. Now I mentioned earlier there's really no chrome in this vehicle, but it is saved to the star power, the insignias, and the dual exhaust at the bottom. When it comes to coupes and its overall modest size, well, there could be some compromises. One being here in the second row, which I'll get into in just a second, but the other being cargo space. But what I found on the 250 is, well, it's still decent acreage here on the inside. Now where it all starts is obviously gaining access. You can use the key fob or just simply press right there. Once it rises to the occasion, what you're going to see is around about 11.6 cubic feet. Obviously in a cavernous like design, really with this open area right through here and really tons of area to tuck behind. What I found is this really gobbled up a lot of gear, and with the second row being able to tumble forward, we actually got quite a bit more when we slid things into the cabin. Under the hood, you're looking at a 2.0 liter inline 4-cylinder turbocharged engine. Now it's going to deliver around about 221 horses and 258 foot-pounds of torque. Now the engine is coupled to a 7-speed dual clutch transmission, but the big talk is, well, how fast can it go? Specifically 0 to 60 numbers for this 4MATIC in 6.2 seconds. The big win, in my opinion, for the CLA 250 is the 4-door offerings on this coupe-like feel, because no one really wants to do that front to back seat dive. You at least want to give your backseat pilots a nice ease of ingress to their sitting point. Now the only Achilles heel, of course, for any coupe is legroom numbers. Now what you're going to find up front is around about 41 inches. Backseat drivers getting about 33. That's on the cuspus of a knee bleeding affair. But one thing that can help with that is front seat pilots moving their seats forward just a little bit, giving maybe around about 35 inches, which is tolerable for most individuals. One other side effect of having a nice sloping roofline is, well, the backseat drivers will need to bend just a hair more to climb inside. As you can tell with that arcing of the roofline, it does compromise the somewhat ease ability of getting inside. But one thing to note, once you're in there, it does feel a little more cathedral-like because the roofline does tuck up when you're in the cabin. For front seat drivers, one thing you will notice is the B pillar might be the one thing you have to tuck around. Really getting in isn't that bad, but you do actually have to maneuver just a hair, sweeping back behind the pillar when you get inside. Now, as for the seating, nice sports seating, a little bit of bolstering, but not too tight, really handling about any individual with ease. Now, there is some extra nice support in the form of the thigh support up front that you can pull out, making those longer trips a little bit more comfortable. The outside has a wow factor, but the inside is breathtaking with its artistic level of design. First starting with the gauge cluster infotainment system combination under a nice digital display. Now let's start with the infotainment. Really everything nice and easy to use. Now this is touch sensitive, but there is a trackpad below, and I'll show you that in just a second. Now as you interact, really easy to do. Just kind of scroll through, find your favorite station. If you get lost, you can go to the home screen. This is going to give you tons of other information from navigation all the way over to settings for the vehicle. Now if you prefer using the trackpad, it's pretty much what everyone's going to use. A nice area to set your arm and allows the fingers really to kind of dance around on this trackpad. And what you'll notice is it's really integrated and has hyposensitive feedback that allows you to understand what the vehicle is doing and scrolling to the right spots. Once you get there, just simply enter, and again you can go to all the various quadrants or what have you and really navigate this with ease. Now beside the trackpad, you have tons of shortcuts for some various options. First off, your driving modes, parking assist, as well as some other safety features right here. Shortcut for navigation, media, and your telephone, and a nice toggling of sorts for your volume. But again, this is pretty much where you'll utilize the most, really interacting with that screen up above. If you're like me, you don't really carry your chargers with you that much, but you do have the wireless charging capability in your phone. Well, that's going to go right here. Drop it in, and it tells you up above on the display that the wireless charging is working, but you do have USB-C connection here as well as a standard outlet as well. Not all drinks are created equal, mainly in the size and how they fit in these cup holders. And if you're like me, you complain quite a bit if the drink rattles around. But the way Mercedes fixes that is by this extra support that is spring-loaded and grips the cup. And as you can tell, it can be the small bottles on up to the big gulps. And obviously it does that for both sides. For the driving modes, when you select that, what you're going to find is Econo, Comfort, Sport, and Individual. Now this is a turbocharged engine, has modest get up and go, so I pretty much kept it in Comfort and Econo because after all this isn't the AMG, so at least I had some modest fun, but pretty much just kept it standard procedure. On the steering wheel, you're going to find controls here on the right side for entertainment as well as interacting with that screen over there. That's done in the form of this kind of mini tripod that allows you to move your finger around and it controls the screen real easy. And again, if you get lost, you can simply hit the home button there on the steering wheel, or the back button gets you back to where you're going. Now on the left side, you will find controls for setting the cruise. Does have adaptive cruise control, again, setting the space between you and other vehicles, and again has a nice trackpad for interacting with the gauge cluster. Now the gauge cluster is not touch sensitive, but you can interact with it right here by simply using these shortcuts. Climate control shortcuts are going to be found down below, but you can interact with the screen up above. You can simply just press this button here and it will appear, and you can go trackpad or again interact with the screen. One thing I do like, which you can't see during the day, is as you change the temperature, this actual vent related to that individual will change a certain color. If you increase the heat, it turns red. If you decrease it, go colder, it turns blue. Now all the illumination in the vehicle can be changed and customized to your specific setting. Now with this vehicle not being the AMG, I didn't really expect to have a lot of neck snapping fun. Now it is sporty, that 4-cylinder really delivers a nice spirited ride. Now did I expect to have neck snapping fun? Well, certainly not. Now it does have, again, the sport mode, so I did want to test out to see kind of what it feels like. Now first off, let's start in comfort. I'm going to stomp the gas and see, well, if I'm thrown into the back seat. That's not too shabby considering that was in the comfort mode. Now let's switch it over to the sport mode and see, well, if we notice a big difference. Actually, in my opinion, I thought the comfort was a lot better. The sport really took just a little extra second to get going. Now I can tell that the RPMs have a different shift point, or so be it, but well, the comfort was just as good. So maybe I'll get a little bit better fuel economy if I at least stay away from the sport. Now the one thing I do like about the comfort mode versus the sport is it does have a little less whine to it. Obviously shift points are a little bit more subdued, so I prefer that. Now would I argue that the sport mode and even the individual mode can go away? Well, I'm just not a sports enthusiast, so I tend to keep it nice and subtle going down the road. And even better, I like when it's nice and refined, and well, that's certainly what this vehicle can deliver. What I do like is you can go to Econo mode, and when you do that, you get this kind of atmosphere kind of feel. Everything has this look to it. The lighting's different, and you feel like, well, maybe you're just saving the environment when you're running that. So, well, I'd argue keep the Econo, keep the comfort, and get rid of the other dynamic modes. Now, as the planes take off behind me, I need to take off because, well, you've heard probably enough. The best thing you can do is, well, get a chance to get behind the wheel because this, well, coupe-like feel, well, makes this 6-foot 2-inch frame feel so comfortable. And it all starts with at least delivering those 4 doors that, again, make me have a false sense of security. But really, it also comes down to decent horsepower and, well, this fun exterior color that, well, makes the sun come out even on this wintry day. Now, as always, thank you for watching this edition of Road Warrior. Keep both hands on the wheel and eyes straight ahead.